The autumn of 2019 started like any other in Ravenwood Pines. The population sign read 2,847 souls, though some of the older residents would joke that number hadn't changed in 30 years. The town sat in a valley surrounded by dense forests, the kind of place where cell service was spotty and people knew everyone's business. Sarah Mitchell was 28 years old, working as a freelance graphic designer from a small apartment above the town's only coffee shop. She moved back to Ravenwood Pines 3 years ago after her father's death to help her aging mother. The decision had been selfless, but it came with the weight of watching things move differently in a small town. Nothing changed. Everything stayed the same. On October 15, at 11h47, Polícia Militar, Sarah's phone rang. She was sitting on her bed, scrolling mindlessly through her laptop when the call came through. The screen showed no number, just a blank space where a caller intradermica should be. Sarah hesitated, then answered, "Hello." Her voice was uncertain, the kind of uncertain you only sound when something feels wrong before you even know it's wrong. There was silence on the other end, not empty silence. The kind of silence where you can hear static, breathing, and something underneath it all. A sound like wind through a tunnel. Sarah. The voice was male, distorted like it was coming through an old radio. Sarah Mitchell. Her blood went cold. "Who is this? How did you get this number?" "You don't know me, but I know you. I know where you live. I know you are sitting on your bed right now. I know your mother is sleeping downstairs." Sarah's breath caught. She lived above the coffee shop, the only apartment. Anyone could look up and see her window, but the way he said it, the certainty in his voice, made her skin crawl. "What do you want?" She managed, her finger hovering over the end call button. "To tell you something, before it is too late. You need to come to Ravenwood Forest, tonight, alone. There is something you need to see, something about your father." The line went dead. Sarah sat frozen for 5 minutes, the phone still in her trembling hand. Her father had died of a heart attack 3 years ago on a hiking trail just beyond the edge of town. The forest. His body was found by a ranger near Blackstone Creek. It was ruled accidental. A tragedy, nothing more. She didn't sleep at night. By morning, she'd convinced herself it was a prank. The town had its share of weird people. Maybe someone was just trying to scare her. But the fear didn't leave. It settled onto her chest like a stone. The next day, Sarah did something she knew she shouldn't do. She went to the library and pulled the microfiche records of local newspapers from 3 years ago. She found the article about your father's death easily. "Local man found dead in Ravenwood Forest." The write-up was brief, clinical. "Heart attack. End of story." But as she read it again, something caught her eye. A sentence near the end. "Investigators found evidence of recent camping activity near the body, though no identification of the other party has been made." Other party. Sarah remembered now. Her mother had mentioned this once, years ago, that they thought maybe her father wasn't alone when he died. But the police never found anyone else. The case was closed. That night, the phone rang again at the same time. 11h47 Polícia Militar. Sarah answered before it could ring twice. "You read the article," the voice said. "No preamble. No introduction. What do you want from me?" Sarah whispered. "The truth. Your father didn't have a heart attack, Sarah." "Not really. He was supposed to meet someone that night. He was supposed to bring you with him." "That is insane. Why would he?" "Because something lives in that forest. Something old. The people in Ravenwood Pines know about it. They've been known for generations. Your father was going to tell you. He was going to bring you to the forest and show you. But he never made it back." The line crackled with static. "I was with him that night, Sarah. And we've been trying to warn people ever since. But the town protects it. They've made a deal. They feed it sometimes. They keep it satisfied. And in return, it never comes to the houses. Never comes to town." "You're lying. This is insane. Come to the forest tomorrow night. Come alone. Come to the old stone marker near Blackstone Creek, the place where they found your father. If you don't believe me, at least you will know I'm real." He hung up. Sarah didn't sleep again. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through possibilities. A stalker, a prank caller, someone delusional. But there was something in his voice that was so specific, so certain. And he knew things about that night. At those Amazonas, unable to bar her own thoughts anymore, she went downstairs and woke her mother. Her mother, Patricia, sat at the kitchen table in her old bathrobe, looking exactly like what she was, a woman who'd been woken from sleep. For a moment, Sarah almost didn't ask, almost turned back, but she needed to know. "Ma, the night Dad died, was there someone else there?" Patricia's face went very still. She reached for the tea kettle, buying herself tea. "Why are you asking about this now? Please, just tell me the truth." Patricia sighed, the kind of sigh that held 30 years of decisions made in the dark. "Your father was troubled near the end. He'd been exploring the town's history. He became convinced that something wasn't right in Ravenwood Pines. Something about the forest. He wanted to investigate, and he wanted to take you with him. He thought you were old enough to understand." "Understand what?" "That's where it gets complicated." Patricia wrapped her hands around her mug, not drinking it. "There was a man named David Castillo. He'd moved to town about a year before your father died. He was friendly enough, but he was also asking a lot of questions. About the forest, about how long people had lived here, about the animals that occasionally went missing." Sarah felt her heart rate accelerate. David Castillo. The voice on the phone had never given a name. "Your father and David became friends. They planned a camping trip. They were going to go into the forest and try to figure out what was happening. But your father was scared. I could tell. He didn't want to go, but something was driving him. I need to know. What happened on that night?" Patricia's hands tightened around the mug. "The police said your father had a heart attack. That is what the report says. But David came to my door the next morning, soaking wet, and he said something attacked them, something they couldn't explain. Your father ran. David ran. They got separated. When they found your father, he was dead, and David was long gone, out of town within an hour. The police didn't look for him. The police chief at the team was Richard Holloway. His family has lived here for over 100 years. He came by after they found your father, and he very quietly explained to him that David Castillo had vanished, and that sometimes it was better to let things rest. That your father had been troubled, and that the official cause of death was heart attack, and that I should accept it and move on." Sarah felt the room tilt slightly. "Why didn't you ever tell me this?" "Because I wanted you to have a normal life. I didn't want you wondering about things that couldn't be explained. And because I was scared. If your father died because of whatever David and he found in that forest, then talking about it, investigating it, seemed dangerous." "Is David Castillo still alive?" Patricia looked at her daughter for a long moment. "I don't know. But about a year ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. It just had your name on it. I never opened it. I hid it." The letter was in an envelope in Patricia's nightstand drawer, yellowed with fudge. Sarah's name was written in careful block letters. Inside, there was a single page. "To Sarah Mitchell, if you are reading this, it means your mother finally decided to tell you the truth. I am sorry it took this long. Your father was a good man. You asked women questions. In Ravenwood Pines, that is a dangerous thing to do. Evie spent the last 3 years finding out exactly what happened. Evie tracked down records going back 170 years. Disappearances, missing persons, all in the forest, all covered up. What lives there is something that predates the town. The first families who settled here found it already present. They made a choice, coexist, and the way they chose to coexist was through sacrifice. Nothing formal, nothing coordinated, just an understanding that occasionally, someone has to go into the forest. Not everyone who goes comes back. The ones who do are changed, broken in ways that weren't too deep to fix. Your father figured it out. He was going to go public. I was supposed to help him gather evidence. But something happened that night in the forest. Something unexpected. Your father didn't die of a heart attack, Sarah. He died of fear. Pure, primal fear. And I barely escaped with my life. I am telling you this because you deserve to know the truth about your father and about your town. I'm telling you this because I think you are strong enough to face it. If you want answers, come to the forest on October 31 Street, midnight. Bring the letter. The truth is waiting for you there. David Castillo. The weeks leading up to October 31 Street were a blur. Sarah went through the motions of her life, but she was somewhere else entirely. She researched everything she could find about Ravenwood Pines. She pulled property records, old newspaper archives, census data. And slowly, a pattern emerged. There were gaps, unexplained gaps in the population records, names that appeared and then vanished, families that stayed intact while others seemed to lose members at regular intervals. And in the most recent record, she found something that made her stomach turn. A list of missing persons dating back decades. 23 people in the last 100 years, all last seen near around the forest. All cases marked as resolved presumed accidental death. Her mother begged her not to go to the forest. Sarah promised she wouldn't, but on October 30th, she called in sick to work, packed a backpack with a flashlight, a knife, and warm clothes, and prepared to break the promise. The forest that night was a living thing. That's what Sarah thought the moment she stepped into it. The trees seemed to lean toward her, their branches creating patterns that looked almost intentional. The air was cold and damp, carrying the scent of earth and decay. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, but the shadows beyond it seemed darker, as if they were absorbing the light rather than being revealed by it. The stone marker was where her mother said it would be. A large granite stone, withered and covered in moss. Ravenwood Forest. Established 1879. Below it, someone had carved a symbol, a circle with 3 lines running through it. Sarah was so focused on the marker that she almost didn't notice the figure emerge from the trees. David Castillo was not what she expected. He was thin, gaunt, with the appearance of someone who hadn't slept properly in years. His eyes were hollow, but they were focused entirely on her. "You came," he said. "I came to know the truth," Sarah replied, keeping her distance. "The truth is worse than you can imagine. But first, you need to understand something. Your father didn't come here willingly that night. He was brought here by people from town." Sarah's blood went cold. "What?" "The people of Ravenwood Pines don't leave things to chance. When someone asks storming questions, when someone threatens to expose the town as a secret, they handle it. They bring that person to the forest and they leave them here. Most of the time, the forest does what it is supposed to do. But sometimes people survive. You survived. I survived. But I saw what happened to your father. I saw it as fast when he understood. He wasn't killed by fear or by a heart attack. He was killed because he was expendable. Because the town decided he knew too much. Who brought him here?" David pointed to a figure emerging from the trees behind Sarah. It was Chief Richard Holloway. He was older now, his uniform worn and stained, but his expression was exactly what it had been all those years ago. Calm, resigned, like someone performing a duty. "I'm sorry, Sarah," he said quietly. Sarah turned to run, but there were more figures now. Townspeople. She recognized some of them. The coffee shop owner, the librarian, the school principal, a dozen faces she'd seen her entire life, emerging from the darkness like ghosts. "You don't understand," the chief said. "Ravenwood Pines exists because of the compact made long before any of us were born. The forest will not take the town. The forest will not come to our homes, to our children. But it requires something in return. It requires us to acknowledge its existence. To feed it periodically." "Feed it," Sarah whispered. "People who ask storming questions. People who threaten the balance. People like your father." Sarah looked at David, betrayal flooding through her. But David shook his head. "He didn't know," he said desperately. "He didn't know they'd taken you. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm so sorry." The townspeople moved closer. Sarah backed up, and her foot caught on something. She fell hard, and as she was getting up, she realized what she'd tripped over. A skeleton, partially buried, the clothes on it decades old. She looked around and began to see them. More bones, more clothing, the marker ranging to a boundary. It was a grave. Dozens of graves. "What is this place?" Sarah breathed. I guess where we bring them, Chief Holloway said sadly. I guess where we always brought them. Sarah ran. The echo in Ravenwood Pines. In Eerie call from the dark forest, o eco em Ravenwood Pines, chamado assustador da floresta escura the screen fades in from black, revealing a misty forest landscape under a moonlit sky. Bare branches claw at the darkness. A whispered voice begins. There are places in America where the line between the living and the forgotten blurs. Ravenwood Pines is one of them. This is the true account of what happened there. A story that begins with a phone call and ends in places no one dared to look. Cut a map showing Ravenwood Pines, a small town nestled in the mountains of northern Pennsylvania. She crashed through the forest, branches tearing at her face, roots trying to trip her feet. Behind her, she could hear the townspeople moving through the trees, not running, just walking like they had all the time in the world. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs felt like they would give out, and then she heard it. A sound from deeper in the forest. A low sound, like something massive moving through the underbrush. It wasn't the townspeople. It was something else. The sound of breathing, not human breathing. Breathing that rattled and wheezed and seemed to come from everywhere at once. Sarah stopped running. She turned around slowly. In the darkness, perhaps 20 feet away, she could see movement, the shape of something vast and round, something that her mind called in to keep the process. It was there, and then it wasn't there, and then it was there again, as if the forest itself was having trouble holding its shape. Chief Holloway stepped up beside her. "It wants to see you," he said. "It has been waiting for you for a long time." "My father," Sarah whispered. "Your father was a mistake. The forest takes what it wants, but it doesn't always keep what it takes. He ran before it could settle. But you, Sarah, you came willingly. That's different. That means something." The thing in the forest took a step forward. Sarah could hear the sound of the earth shifting beneath its weight. She could smell it now. A smell like rotting meat and wet stone and something else, something ancient and patient. And then, impossibly, she heard her father's voice. "Sarah, come home." It was exactly his voice. Exact in every way. The cadence, the warmth, the love. But it wasn't coming from the thing in the forest. It was coming from inside her head. "Come home, Sarah. We've been waiting for you." The next morning, the coffee shop owner called the police and reported that Sarah Mitchell was missing. She hadn't opened her apartment. Her car was still parked out front. A search began, half-hearted and destined to find nothing. Her mother organized search parties. They went into the forest, calling her name, searching the area around Blackstone Creek. But they found nothing. No body, no clothing, no sign that Sarah had ever been there. Within a week, the search was called off. The general consensus was that Sarah had suffered a mental health crisis as one-off, or perhaps had an accident in the forest and her body had been taken by animals or swept away by the creek. Life in Ravenwood Pines returned to normal. Patricia Mitchell never stopped looking for her daughter. She organized searches twice a year on the anniversary of Sarah's disappearance and on Sarah's birthday. But no one else participated anymore. They all quietly accepted what they knew on some unspoken level. Sarah was gone, and it was best not to think too much about why. Until 3 years later, Patricia was driving home from the grocery store when she saw a figure on the side of the road, standing perfectly still, facing the forest. The figure turned, and Patricia asked briefly. It was Sarah, or it looked like Sarah. She was wearing the same clothes she'd worn the night she disappeared, but her skin was pale, almost translucent. Her eyes were dark, but not empty. They were full of something. Full of knowledge, full of awe, full of hunger. Patricia slammed on the brakes. She got out of the car, her hands shaking. "Sarah? Oh my God, Sarah!" Sarah smiled. It was Sarah's smile, but wrong somehow. The smile of someone who'd forgotten how human faces were supposed to move. "Hello, Mother," she said. "I came to invite you to the forest. Father sent me. He has been waiting." Patricia staggered backward. No, that's not. You ran not. You've learned so much," Sarah continued. "There is so much to see in the deep places. So much to understand. And Father wants to show you. He wants to share it." "Sarah, Baby, it is me. It is your mother. I know who you are, Sarah said, and then, almost gently, that is why I came. The thing wearing Sarah's face took a step toward her mother, and Patricia made a choice, the same choice all the townspeople of Ravenwood Pines had learned to make, across generations, across decades, across more than a century. She got back in her car. She drove away, and she never spoke of what she did see. The screen fought stay black. The whispered voice returns. 3 years have passed since Sarah Mitchell disappeared into Ravenwood Forest. The town of Ravenwood Pines has returned to its quiet existence, its population sign still reading 2,847. But if you pay attention to the details, if you look at the records and the missing persons and the patterns that repeat across generations, you will see the truth. There is something in that forest, something that feeds, and the people of Ravenwood Pines have learned to live with it by accepting a simple barter. Don't investigate, don't question, and you will be left alone. But sometimes, those who've been taken come back, and sometimes, they bring invitations. Cut the scene of Sarah standing at the edge of Ravenwood Forest, watching the town in the distance, smiling.